Hey everyone, and welcome to my video on the Magical Mystery Tour. Now, unfortunately, this video will not be anywhere near as in-depth as my videos normally are, and that's simply because I haven't got very many copies of this, so I haven't got very many different variations, but I will show you what I have got. So, as usual, I've got mono and stereo copies of this, so I'll go through them. However, before we get started, I'd just like to talk about George Martin, who very sadly passed away this week, aged 90, which is a very good age. It is a real shame to lose George Martin because he was such a brilliant man, and of course he really was the fifth Beatle. You know, I mean, Lennon and McCartney wrote a lot of the songs, but he was the one who obviously produced them. You know, he came up with a lot of the music for them as well. He just really was so instrumental in the making of the Beatles songs that we know and love today. And he was with them throughout their entire time, from 62 all the way up until sort of Let It Be. You know, he was there, and he was truly amazing. And of course, his influence and expertise wasn't just used with the Beatles, but with a variety of acts. Obviously, lots of other English bands, but also with comedy groups. And of course, he loved sort of classical and orchestral music, and he had such a talent and flair with that. So he was really just a man of many skills, really, in the music industry. And like I say, he was just such an expert, so brilliant. And he was really, really sort of influential in the Beatles recordings. So, rest in peace, George Martin. So let's start with a mono EP. Here's a copy. So, the cover is different to the album, which was released in the US at the same time. It's got a different picture on. And there's the back. The mono or stereo designation appears on the top right corner. And on the inside, it has one record in the very front and one record in the very back. And all of these were made by Goward and Lofthouse Limited. And it's got the songs on there. And it also has a booklet on the inside, very much like the album version does, which of course just has many pictures and lyrics of the film. Now the originals have the light blue lyric pages here, so that's what you want to look for, light blue lyric pages in the middle, because reissues have purple or yellow normally. Now let's take a look at the records. So here's record 1, which has Magical Mystery Tour, Your Mother Should Know, and I Am the Walrus. So 3 songs on each record. And it has the Sold in the UK text on the centre there, and the Gramophone Company Limited on the perimeter text. Now, you can get these with the push-out centre and also with a solid centre. So there's 2 different types you can get. And here's record 2. And of course it's the same as record 1 in that it has the Sold in the UK and the Gramophone Company Limited. And you can see a KT tax code in the middle of this record here as well. And the songs on record 2 are The Fool on the Hill, Flying, and Blue Jay Way. Now the songs don't appear in the same order as they do in the film. That's just how they were pressed on the vinyl. And here is another copy of that same type of the EP with a push out. Unfortunately, this copy isn't in as good a condition because there's some loose pages and just, yeah, as you can see. So the booklet's a little bit damaged. And here's the record again, same as the last copy. This one's got some writing on the top there. And the KT tax code on the side too. So yeah, that's just basically the same. And here is a third copy of that same pressing. This one's in pretty good condition. I think all the pages are intact on this copy. Yeah. And of course the records are the same. Now, unfortunately, this next copy doesn't actually have a cover. However, it is the solid centre variation, so I will show you that. Here it is. So here's side 1 and 2. Now, there's a few differences with this one. Obviously, of course, it's got a solid centre rather than a push out. But also, the Northern Songs has changed, so it's just like slightly bigger now and it looks different. I'll show you what the other one looked like quickly. Yeah, so here's what it looked like on the push outs, and here is what it looks like on the solid centre. And here's side 2 as well, with the KT tax code. And here is side 3 and side 4. Again, the Northern Songs is slightly bigger. So there's 2 variations of the mono press. And this next copy is another solid centre copy, but obviously this one has a cover, which is nice. Good cover on this one, and of course solid centre. Now, actually, that's all the mono variations there are. It was only like pressed once in push out and solid centre, and then it was never kind of reissued in EP format. So I'll show you the one and only stereo copy I've got. So as I said, this isn't going to be a particularly detailed video. But anyway, here's the one stereo copy I've got, and there are many stereo variations. So I will talk you through those anyway. So here's the cover, just like the mono. And of course the designation now reads stereo on the back. And it also has the original blue lyric pages on the inside. Now this is a first pressing variation B of the Stereo Magical Mystery Tour. There are actually 4 variations of the first pressing and also a second pressing, so this gets a little bit more complicated. But the reason this is a variation B is because the Northern Songs is taller than it is on the variation A. It's pretty much the same difference from the solid centre mono copy to the push out mono copy in terms of the size of the Northern Songs. Here's the stereo, of course it says stereo there now. There's side 2. And here are sides 3 and 4. Side 3. And side 4. Okay, now, although that is all the copies I've got of the EP, I can show you the pictures of the other variations in this book. So this is the best I've got, I'm afraid. Okay, so this is from the Beatles for Sale on Parlophone Records book, which I would completely recommend. It's very interesting and helpful indeed. So anyway, here's the first pressing stereo variation A. Like the mono push out, it has the small Northern Songs, which turns into the larger Northern Songs on the variation B. And this is the copy I've just shown you. This is the only copy I have in stereo. And of course, the same goes for sides 2, 3 and 4. Yep, 2's at the top, 2, 3 and 4. The Northern Songs gets bigger on all of those. And they all have sold in the UK. And the variation C of the first pressing is up here. Now the Northern Songs have changed again slightly. This time it's a little bit thinner. It's a bit more squashed than it was in the variation B. Take you back down so you can see that. So it's just slightly wider on the variation B than it is on the variation C. And the same goes for the other 3 sides. Actually, I made a mistake before. There are 3 variations of the first pressing, and then it's the second pressing. So here's the second pressing down here. Now, the fundamental difference is that there is now no longer sold in the UK on the centre of the label, whereas sold in the UK appears on all three variations of the first pressing, A, B and C. There's now none on the centre of the second pressing. But the Northern Songs NCB looks exactly the same as it did on the variation B of the first pressing. So that's what you've got to look out for. And there's sides 2, 3 and 4. Now, until 1976, Magical Mystery Tour was only available as a double EP in England, whereas in countries like Canada and the USA it had been released as an album years before. But in 1976, this album was pressed in the UK on the Parlophone label. And this is the first pressing of it. It's got the same tracks, of course, as the American issue. It's also got the booklet on the inside, similar to the EP, except there are no lyric pages in this one. And here it is, and it was pressed on the 2-box Parlophone label, which was the label that was in use in 1976 when this was pressed, and it has the EMI Records Limited. Now, for later pressings of this, it might have the all rights of the producer permitted text. It's got a bit of sticker damage there, but that's nothing too bad. It's also got a slightly unusual catalogue number, and that is PCTC, rather than like PCS, for instance. And here is the other side. So this was the first time that this album was released on LP format in the UK. Then the album was re-released with the 2012 stereo vinyl remasters, and here is one of those. This is a sealed copy, so I can't really show you much, but yep, this is the 2012 version, and of course it's pretty much just the same as the last one. Next up, I have a Portuguese press from the early 1980s. Now there are one or two interesting differences about this. Firstly, there is no kind of booklet on the inside, just kind of blank. And here is the label. Now this also carries a pretty obvious spelling mistake, and that is on Mystery here. And Magical Mystery Tour, mystery should be spelled MYS, however it's spelled MIS, and that's repeated several times on the two labels as well. Now, no offence to Portugal or anything, however it seems on most Portuguese Beatles albums there is at least one spelling mistake for some reason. And here's side 2. Again, Magical Mystery Tour, up there, misspelt. It's even misspelt on the spine of the cover as well. And that was on the yellow and black Parlophone label as well. Now the final copy I've got to show is a French copy of Magical Mystery Tour. Now, as you can see, it's actually got the EP cover for the LP rather than the conventional LP cover. And it's even just got on the back here, like the EP catalogue number as well. Now, I'm not actually that sure if this is an official release or if it's just a bootleg. Probably is, but I'll show you it anyway. So rather than a booklet, it just has a big poster which kind of incorporates all the elements of the booklet, so all the captions and pictures and lyrics and credits are all on this big fold out poster. And the LP is on yellow vinyl as well, which looks really nice. And it's also on the Apple label, and it's like a US Apple label as well. And despite the fact that it says mono on the cover, it's got stereo on the Apple label there. Here's side 2. Now, whether this is official or not, it's still really nice to have on coloured vinyl. So, okay, and that's the end of my Magical Mystery Tour video. Once again, I'm sorry that this wasn't kind of detailed and as in-depth as it normally is, but that's mainly due to the fact that I've just not got that many copies of it, so I've just kind of had to do the best I could do. So anyway, I hope you'll join me next week for my White Album video, and let's just say I'm really looking forward to filming and posting this one for you to see. So I hope you'll watch that, and thank you for watching. And one last thing before I go, I'd just like to say thank you so much everyone who has subscribed to me, because this week I finally hit the milestone of 100 subscribers, and that means so much to me. So I'd just like to say a big thanks to everyone who watches my videos and comments and subscribes, of course. You know, it's really just kind of made it worthwhile, me making these videos, and I do really appreciate all your support and your feedback. So, thanks.